And the phone rings. Unbelievable. Okay. Okay, so welcome to Social Media Fridays. Each week we meet to wind down and talk about what happened in the world of social media this week. With us tonight, or with us today, I should say, we have Masataki Wasa. He's webmaster of wasaweb.net. Maher Bhagat is CEO of a human resources company in India and a social media queen. And Adelaide's leading SEO is Tony McCreath. He's webmaster of websiteadvantage.com.au. All right, each week we look at topics that we've posted through the week on the Social Media Fridays community. And the first one we're looking at today, you can follow these along via the social media community, or there's also a page on dumbseoquestions.com. It's episode 13. All right, Tony posted this one. It was using qualitative and quantitative social proof to build credibility. You're a fairly credible bloke, Tony. Tell us all about it, please, mate.
Actually, I'm still struggling on what social proof is, but the kind of gist I'm getting is that you look at what other people are doing and other signals to verify if you trust something. And this is something that's come from years back, as when we were knee-high to a monkey, that it's a way to stop us dying. We look at others and create trust through signals from others and things like that. So this is about how that's still in our genes, and how now it's happening online. Even though it doesn't make sense anymore for us to do these things, they are influencing our decisions. So this is why we like these follow accounts and these +1s, and they're providing a form of proof that something is credible and we can trust it and it's not going to kill us. So I just summed up some of the things that I got from that particular article. So they were talking follow accounts, so citing brands like as seen on TV and things are all these signals to say I'm credible because you've seen me on TV, even if you haven't. It's still a signal. You've got things like clout, which create credibility through influencer score, which I guess relates to who follows you in their clout score. Another member of a community. So when you join communities, you're looking at all the other people in the community as social proof and the signals that they provide. I guess that's a sheep mentality.
Mm-hmm.
If there are comments, if there are reviews, yeah, this is obviously a strong one that is very central on the internet now. How a website gets ranked. Influential employees. I think I put that in because we're now getting to the point where people are the social proof of a company. If you've got employees which are influential, you're spreading that to your company and helping the company you work for. Obviously, the opposite can happen. Media attention is if you get on the news, if you get on big media, you're obviously got some big, strong social proof that you're good. And the last one, active users right now. Which actually that remind me of signals like you get some forums that say 27 people currently viewing this thread. So I think that's where that was going on, that you can, if you are very popular, you can tell people how popular you are by current active users. that's kind of my take. I don't know if anybody else has got more of a better understanding on it.
No, that's really, really good. I'm thinking what I should do is program our pages to say 126 people are watching right now.
Well, actually, the next one, which is the video, they spend a lot of time talking about the problem of it being fake. So it might be social proof, but the problem is a lot of people doing this are then faking reviews. They're doing Fiverr reviews, and I think they were talking about Groupon being a problem thing, because it kind of creates a social proof, but in the end it ends up being a negative on the company, because people feel like they're hard done by if they didn't get it, or if they can't get it again, that sort of thing. So
actually, in the next article we're about to discuss, they mentioned Groupon. I think I heard you say.
Yeah. So which next one's a video, isn't it? So that's they started talking about the problems of. In fact, they were having a bit of an argument on what social proof is and if it exists, type thing. So.
Yep.
I still don't know what it means. I mean.
Well, Mr. Taki, you and I have never met, and yet I know that you are a kind and gentle and sensitive person. I know that you're intelligent. I know that you have skills that I don't have. One of them being tactful and diplomatic. But you know, we have only met through social media, and you know, it's because of the proof that you lay down just by the interaction and the things that you do online. And you know, I like when people are, say, looking at Vodafone, for argument's sake. The people that represent Vodafone as social media managers, if they're respected as you are, if they're respected and they deal with community inquiries adequately, they don't necessarily have to solve the problem, but at least they address the problem, then they lend their integrity and credibility to the Vodafone company. That is my view of social proof.
Yeah, but it. I suppose that sort of the sort of trust, credibility, positive influence. I'm not so sure how that really fits in with the concept of proof.
Well, the proof is, I mean, for my part, when I saw Google going this way, the first time I noticed was in 2010, when they added a profile to the Google Webmaster Forum, you know, the help forum. When you know, up until that time, I mean, my history on the internet was in 1997 or 98 or something like that. I had a newsletter, and in it I published it online. It still can be seen in archive.org. I predicted that John Howard was leading a lame duck government that wouldn't last past, like it wouldn't be re-elected. And I don't know if you know much of Australian history or not, but this is the guy that then went on to become the longest-serving, or one of the longest-serving prime ministers in Australia's history. He had 11 years in the job, and I said he wouldn't last a year. So that, you know, really shocked me, really set me back. And I really didn't say much online from then. I stopped the newsletter. I stopped publishing online, and didn't really say much until about 10 years later, in 2010, when I got into
When they kicked him out.
No, that was 2007. But yeah, so anyway, so I'd gone from basically a decade of saying absolutely nothing, and remaining completely private. But then when I saw this thing that Google had done with the profiles and the Google Web as the help forum, I thought, well, what have I got to hide? What have I got to lose? And so then I decided to go the complete opposite, completely open and transparent. And it's brought me new business. It's brought me new friends. It's in all aspects, it's been positive. Sure, there's a few dickheads, but no more than you would get if you weren't transparent on the internet. My friends can't understand it. And my sons are really against. My sons deal with professionals, and they feel it's unprofessional to be on a social media channel, and I had to drag them kicking and screaming just to make a profile, and I could see the use of in our companies to use Hangouts for communication, because we're all so busy. But it's just impossible. Fortunately, Microsoft came along and created that platform called Link, which is basically provides all the features that Hangouts do anyway, and chat. And so it's okay with the guys now that we can use chat. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that the concept of being open and transparent on the internet, to me, having done it, it's perfectly natural. But my good friends, some of them are horrified that you would do that. Why would you let your address be on the air? Why would you let your phone number be on the air? Because it makes you accessible. It allows people to contact you. It's good for business.
I think you've hit on a example of social proof there. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia, and so it's like your sons are there. They're following the example of their peers, and their peers are saying you've got to behave this way, and that's an example of social proof. If you get people who go to work in suits still, because there's just like these herds of people who still wear suits, and so there's a bit of that social proof is causing a barrier, I guess, that so people aren't crossing the border and taking a risk and doing something different, like making themselves public in a business, because the norm is it's the brand, the company, and the employees are hidden in a black box somewhere, whereas the trend now is the employees are going to be the representatives. But there's going to be a lot of people that you're going to have to keep dragging and screaming until it flips over and it becomes the norm.
Yeah, so we're talking about social conformity, social influence. That sounds like, the ability to influence someone or be influenced by the norms and, as it were, unwritten rules that have been created by the group. So, to me, it feels that you can talk about social influence, social conformity. Those are concepts that I can understand, because I think it's as what it says. But social proof, social proofing, I mean, that still to me a very sort of vague notion. If you see what I mean, I'm still struggling to, to understand what it actually means. Whereas if you told me about social influence or social conformity, then I do understand what they mean.
I think social proof is trying to say the reason why social influence works and why we conform. But yeah, I'm still struggling on it, bar examples to kind of say, yeah, we are in. If there's 20 people saying this is the way to do it, that's a social influence, and the reason why we're influenced is because of social proof. We're requiring social proof. But it is a vague concept. I only heard about it probably this week.
Yeah, I would say caving into peer pressure. And is that social proof? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they use the term herd behavior as well. Or a good example on the wiki is, say if you go into a group, a situation you've never been in, and there's a group of people there, your tendency is to behave the way they behave. So because you want to be accepted, and you don't want to make a mistake, and again, I guess it's going back down to they know what they're doing, so you've less chance of killing yourself if you do exactly what everybody else is doing, and so yeah, that's good.
That's the Romans do. I mean, again, it's not a new concept. Anthropologists would have discovered this ages ago. I mean, what is it that would make this a new expression? What is that thing that requires that new term to be coined when the phenomena that are described by this term can be adequately expressed by existing terms?
Like conformity, influence, yeah. It makes me got to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's why you invent words.
Yeah. Then I could get annoyed.
But it's hard, certainly can't give I certainly wouldn't give an example, but you can identify people that don't. How can I put this? They don't actually participate. They don't give of themselves. They don't really participate. They present like an image, a contrived image, and you can see that sort of person. They have an agenda. They don't have. I'm really struggling here. But you can see people that don't have social proof. That they have. They're one-dimensional, whereas people are people that they have failings and so on. I think one aspect of social proof is being prepared to admit your failings publicly. Whereas you can see that the stilted people who couldn't convince me of anything because they are so one-dimensional, that you can see that that they're just perpetrating a facade. All the wrong words, but they're an image that they think that they are portraying, and in the end, they come off not as that image that they want to portray, but as a shallow and meaningless person, because it's not really a person. It's not them.
Is that because of the risk of standing out? That like mentioned herd behavior. If you're shallow, not showing any of your characteristics, you'll merge in. You won't rock the boat and things. So do people behave that way as their form of protection?
Yeah, but I mean, what's the fear?
It's generally for a purpose that people can fit in well, and the other people in the room can accept you. If you're very open about exactly the kind of person you are, you might have that fear. People might not accept you, but then it completely depends on the the kind of room you are into. I mean, like, if you are, I personally believe if you're getting into a room, any sort of, and if you're not ready to actually open yourself, there's no point in even getting into that room. But there are certain factors that defines that certain people do not like to open up, and they're not ready. They're not at all ready for kind of the exact word.
And you get the opposite. You get some people who they go in a room and they go around, they read the room, and then they beeline and target, and they become the center of the party type thing. Because I guess they've had enough success at doing that. Be confident.
See, that is complete different ballgame. I mean, person who comes, walks in, understand what the room is all about, and takes the place center place. Obviously, the person is confident, but with 99% of people, only 1% of you'll find that kind of person in the room, right? But the 99% in the very room would have a different behavior. They would try to fit in themselves. They would actually try to fit in themselves in a term that they can be accepted. They really don't want to show their real characteristics. So it's basically fitting in. That's the only thing you can say. The very example. I'm sorry, you're saying?
Yeah, most have to do it. Like you get the situation where you've got a couple of alpha dogs in a group, and it doesn't work. Most of you have to be passive, and the quieter ones, it's kind of the normal pattern.
I'll put an example of arranged marriage. Two people don't know each other, but they behave so normally, they behave so nicely in front of everyone, but they have a different characteristics. The reality opens after 10-15 days of marriage. It's the same thing. It's not much different.
When people go online, you hear that, like maybe in the real world, they're quiet and humble, and they are the ones that don't say anything. But sometimes you hear that they go online and they can change their personality because it's not them anymore. So I guess you get some people who can take advantage and actually bloom on the internet, whereas I guess some other people are too scared to show the personality on the internet because it's public.
Right, and to be honest, mostly over 80% of users on internet do not know how to handle their profiles. I mean, like they don't understand the the settings. To be honest, if I have to put it that way, they have no idea what they're actually doing. It's like a reference-based system. Oh, you're on Facebook? I'm on Facebook too. And now they start sharing it. Facebook had this feature by default, I think over a year ago, that whenever there is a new user who used to create an account, by default all posts were set, default post was set to public. They've recently changed it to friends, but people didn't knew that. A lot of people didn't knew that because they've not been accessing these data, details, settings in detail. So they have that fear phobia. That they would not be ready, and like they would fall into a place like, oh, this person knows me, I don't want to tell that person about me. So there is a kind of level that they do not know how to maintain. So they keep away. They make sure that they have a different personality type in front of everyone.
Yeah, and your baby steps when you're first online, and you won't be showing your true personality as you're doing your first posts and trying to get a feel for how it all works.
Over 2 million Twitter accounts has their only first post. Hi, I'm Twitter. That is by default. Twitter showcases. If you create a new account on Twitter, you would see Twitter would have given you 2 tweets already. You just have to click it, right? People just do that and vanish because they don't know exactly how to use it. And when they start using it, the personality is completely different than exactly what they're doing. I know a lot of people who are into different things, and what they showcase, showcase on their online platforms is completely different. Why take for example a lot of people? I'm in network with a lot of people, but then my idea of hanging out is not with everyone. I like to hang out with people that I know. First thing. Second thing, we have a similar frequency, the interest matches, but not everybody has a think alike, so maintenance is high.
Well, I've just thrown caution to the wind and invited David Kuchar and Dustin Stout. I think and Stephen Hogan. All I'll get is chastised for having the temerity to ask them. But anyway, well, look, have we covered this to the best of our abilities, or would you like to talk more? It's an interesting chat. Have we convinced you, Masataki?
No, I mean the idea. I think. Now I'm going to go on my sort of tirade now, but I still think that there are adequate expressions that can describe the elements, and I think the totality of the ideas and, if you like, definitions of the word or the expression social proof. I think social influence, social conformity, peer pressure, group dynamics, all these things I think describe what social proof or social proofing attempts to describe in a far better way and in a far more accurate, perhaps, way. So I remain unconvinced what it is and what it means.
We still have to wait next 3 months to actually understand what social proofing is.
And probably the other terms like social influence are more actionable. That you want to try and be the influencer to mold people into going your way. And so it's a more actionable word and meaning.
Is social proof shorthand for all of those terms, Mr. Taki?
Yeah, but then it's so vague as to being, useless as a concept if it encompasses so many things, and if people understand it to mean different things, emphasizing the different elements that are contained within that umbrella term, then you and I can be talking about social proofing, but we would have 2 totally different definitions of that expression. And then if we were to have a conversation, we're not really understanding each other because we're not on the same wavelength. So I think to become a useful expression, useful word, it will have to have a tighter definition that most people will share and understand. And I'm not saying that it's, I'm not dismissing it entirely. I think the expression itself is in process of being defined at this moment. But it will be some time yet before it becomes, if you like, it will be a while before it gains currency and understood by most people who talk about social proof or social proofing.
Yeah.
Simply, it has long way to actually integrate itself. I mean, like if you look at the very term social proof, it has a long way to find its own space, own terminology, own accuracy, what exactly this is, and how it's going to help integrate within the system. Social media, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're done with this topic.
I think we've done this topic too, Maher. All right, let's have a look at the next. Well, look, we've also covered the second issue, which is the other one, which is the Hangout, which was moderated by Stephen Hovnanian, and in the red corner was Dustin Smith, the blue corner was David Kucher. Okay, so let's move on to something a little bit more bland. Posted by Tony McCreath, Twitter has updated its analytics for advertisers. You can follow along with us at the Social Media Fridays community or the questions page on WCAquestions.com. What's happening with this Twitter, Tony?
My internet isn't working. Obviously it is, otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you. So I managed to look into getting access to it, so I must have set something up on my Twitter account to have half access. It might be if you've actually got verified Twitter cards, but the report, if I can get it back again, had some interesting ways to display information and providing information on demographics. Really hard to talk about when I don't have it in front of me. So yeah, things like you can see. This actually relates to social proof. Maybe you can see who your followers also follow and who are their influencers, which I think is a useful one for mine comes up with the usual suspects: Matt Cutts, Danny Sullivan. So it could be a useful way to find out who are the influencers in your area, and therefore who you want to try and influence yourself. Not that Matt Cutts is any use now. He's on holiday, isn't he? Muted.
I said Matt Cutts is on burnout leave, I think. But you've upset Masataki. He's commented there, Tony.
Okay. Hey, if they're following Matt Cutts and they're following me, I gotta be good.
I have to say, I must be missing something on Twitter. I mean, I probably don't use it properly. All that I do is rebroadcast basically what I say on Google Plus. So I guess I'm a newbie user of Twitter. So I don't see. I struggle to find value in it, and so I guess that's because I don't use it. So I shouldn't be criticising. I'm not criticising it. Yeah.
I just did a recent push again to go on Twitter. I think actually because of these Hangouts, and you can actually see if for people if they look at the post that suddenly me being a bit more active and I started getting followers again. So it increased the rate of followers. So it must be good just posting pictures of food. That's all you need to do.
Yes, but I wonder if that's something that changed at Twitter, because I plodded along there with about 100 followers for a long time, quite a few years, because I didn't actually seek out followers. But all of a sudden, I think I've got about 650 now. And it's just, it's just started. And looking at that graph, if I can read that, that's the last two dates are January and May. That's pretty much the same as mine too.
Yeah.
So it might be. It might be a change in Twitter, because not only that, the followers that are turning up are genuine people. Well, of course you get the spammers. I thought it was because when I see a spammer, I just I report them as well. And I not only ignore them, I report them as well. And I thought, Twitter's rewarding me for being a good citizen. But looking at yours and comparing it to mine, maybe it's a difference in the way Twitter operates. Maybe they see the usefulness of putting people together. How long is that? On the left-hand column, there's it's almost like a suggested user list. How long has that been on Twitter? Was that the last update?
I don't know if it was there before, but it's just a recent update on. Are you talking just your normal Twitter?
Yeah, I'll go to Twitter and try and describe it a little bit more adequately. Okay, so if you click on followers on your Twitter page, on the left-hand side, it's got a little widget called Who to Follow, and it's got suggested people to follow. You can view all and see a lot more. There's two more lovely people.
I've had that before. I think they've always pushed to try and suggest things, but maybe it isn't. My first follower is an egg. That's no good. Should we report him?
Pardon?
My first follower is an egg called SEO Executive Expert.
Oh, look, I don't mind those guys. What I do mind is the people that come along and offer me 10,000 followers for $25. Masataki, there's something I'd like your opinion on.
Yes.
Do you think a large number of Twitter followers are social proof?
Let the hangout actually get over. He's going to answer as well.
I mean, Followers are followers, aren't they? And
All right.
then you,
Should we go on to the next one? Because the next one is very funny.
I don't know about 20,000 people following you, how it's going to help you. But if Twitter finds out that you have 20,000 followers within a month from being completely inactive to active, they might definitely block you before actually somebody retweets your tweet.
The real person sees it.
Okay. Have we covered analytics for Twitter?
Yeah, well, it also gives some details on Twitter cards, which I guess means they're trying to push people to use Twitter cards more. And so I had another look back on there. Something I forgot is it seems it's not just getting the WordPress plugin to get the cards. You also have to submit for approval, and then you can get the cards.
Okay. Can I ask, what is a Twitter card? What does it do?
Sorry, you go ahead.
Well, it essentially gives you an enhanced version on Twitter of the shared page. So if you share an article, then it will have a thumbnail image and then a description. So it will become much more prominent on someone's Twitter feed.
Got it.
And it can, and there's a few different types. I think there's, photos. I think there's a gallery. So if you have more than one image on a particular page, then you can, show up to, I think, 4. There's article and others. So it would then, I'm not so sure if it would be an appropriate analogy, but it's a bit like rich snippet, what would be the word? Rich snippet visibility that you'd see on Google, perhaps. So it will have enhanced elements. It would emphasize certain aspects.
Okay, thank you.
The report actually tells you the industry average click-through rates for the different types of cards. And so it's interesting that the gallery card, which I don't think I've ever seen, seems to attract more clicks than any other.
And when you said approval, are you saying that Twitter pays people to manually review these things?
Not sure, but you just have to submit your website in to a form, and I would guess it's automatic, that it crawls and just checks that you've got it right. So it's just a way to basically let them know, and they'll enable it. You can actually have product cards, which I presume would include things like price, availability, and things. So there's quite a bit in there.
Yeah, and I think the few cards you have to specify they're required cards, and then otherwise I think they fall back on Open Graph. So when they say have to set description, it would fall back on Open Graph description. Am I wrong in that?
No, I noticed that the image, you can, if you don't specify image, it said it would go back to Open Graph. Because I've just altered my summary cards, which is basically your standard blog post type card, to use larger images. And so you can actually have it use the Open Graph as in the same one as Facebook, or you can specify an alternate one that's specific for Twitter.
Yeah. All right. can we go to the next item?
Go for it.
Cool. All right. I thought this was really funny. This was a post. Steven Spielberg posed next to a film prop. He was castigated. His post went viral. He looked like he'd been a trophy hunter who'd killed. Is that a Triceratops, Matsutake?
How would I know?
Well, why didn't you ask me?
Well, is it Tony?
Any clue?
Anyway, I mean, social media lit up and condemned Steven Spielberg for trophy hunting. Anyway, I thought that was very funny. It just goes to show that we're not all as well educated as we'd like to think we are.
Well, that'll be people who didn't use their social proof before they posted. And then the rest just followed suit.
Well, this is going to become a running gag, isn't it?
It is a Triceratops.
Is it?
Yeah, I just Googled it, and the first article was a picture of him.
See, that's the problem with viral content. It goes off way too highly and it spreads. You really can't stop it.
Okay. Well, by the way, this meme of Steven Spielberg's spawned a whole heap of other memes of Steven Spielberg posing on top of all sorts of trophies.
Oh yeah, Jaws, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, there were so many of them. I don't know what they were, but you know, I just love the internet. The internet really does have a sense of humour. Anyway, let's look at 7 strategic tips for employers to recruit on social media.
That actually changed to 6 if you open the link.
I noticed it, so I wonder which one wasn't strategic anymore.
Tell us all about this one, guys.
You posted it.
Well, I did, but I have to. I mean, look, I'm 63 years old. I can't remember what happened when we started this hangout, let alone something I read a week ago.
I can tell you that Scoop It annoys me because it doesn't take you to the article.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to. You have to find it again.
Well, I don't know which one went out, but I think it's pretty common. The most of the points that are listed here are pretty common. Company profiles and pages should be updated, should be integrated well. You should have a similar brand figure. It should not be disoriented in that terms. About openings, I have a tendency not to actually share the entire details until it's within a very appropriate or the kind of candidate that I'm looking for. Let's say, for example, I'm looking for somebody into management position. I would prefer LinkedIn than any other networks. Similarly, if somebody is looking for an IT guy or a freelancer into animations or any kind of you know development work, they should go at different sites, like there are freelancers.com and there are various others. So it's very important for a company to actually decide the kind of social media network they want to pick for specific posts. They shouldn't be randomly posting it everywhere. And if they want to exactly randomly even post it, I think they should just simply say that we are hiring for so and so post. That's it. And for more openings and details, please check out the page.
I see most of it. This is kind of you're pushing out, so you've got a job, and so you're pushing it out on the different networks. Is it a good move to actually try and hunt down the person you want, or is that something that's too difficult?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy, convenient, resourceful, but that entirely depends on the opening that you have and the kind of network that you actually put in, and how you actually put the post entirely in front of in public, because people are going to share it, people are going to like it, people are going to respond to it, people are going to ignore it for obvious reasons. So you have to be very skeptic of exactly what you're posting, how you're posting, and where you're posting. See, over a lot of companies, top 500 companies, everyone is posting the job openings on LinkedIn, apart from their social portals that they've been into. How the good response that they're getting out of it, they want to stick to it because they're getting quality responses. So if you're posting an opening for a specific job profile, you should understand the kind of job profile that you have in hand and where are the potential candidates for it. You shouldn't randomly post everywhere. I have an opening for again, manager, sales manager, or product manager. If I go start posting on Facebook, will it actually help me? It's not going to help me. People are going to respond. Do you have an opening for this? Do you have an opening for that? So it's best to keep it light, simple, to the point, and ask people to get on the right page, find more details, and then respond instead of posting it everywhere. So you have to be very specific, the profile that you have and the kind of networks you want to post it directly into.
As a human resources person here, is your job easier or harder in these days of social media?
It's pretty easier. It's pretty convenient. Uh, the reliable information is there. Uh, See, LinkedIn is one of the professional networks which is getting over 70% of hiring. When it comes to any company who's hiring, they get their leads from that very area. So it's very fruitful. Again,
Okay. By truthful, as Masataki probably will agree, you mean social proof, don't you?
I knew that was coming. I saw it right away.
You just waiting.
All right. Look, I think we've covered our topic number 5, and our next is a deal from Facebook to offer new advertisers personalised support with a program they're calling Start to Success. This is probably similar to the AdWords campaign where they offer personalised support to get new businesses in. I really think AdWords and Facebook jumped the shark a long time ago, and really they're just shifting the deck chairs on the Titanic. I don't think that they're. I mean, yeah, they're making more money, but gee, the world has become. I mean, more people are on the internet than ever. Businesses are earning more money than ever. But I don't think either Facebook or AdWords are as successful as they could be. Anyway, that's just my little rant. What do you guys think?
I've actually this week an AdWords rep came to me, and surprisingly it was for an existing account. So they've started to be a bit proactive on not just brand new accounts but existing ones, and that's with partners. So they're not approaching the actual advertiser, they're approaching the partner who manages the accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And I find value to it. So if the Facebook guys are doing a similar sort of thing, there is value. Just pointing out, it's just another person's eyes on it, and pointing out you forgot to do this, you didn't do that. At the same time, I think a few of the things that were suggested were to increase revenue to them, not me. Kind of, you can do this and you can reach far more people. And I'm going, that means I'll be spending more, won't it? and the typical thing of your account being limited. So if you increase your budget, you won't have a problem. But I think it's a good move, because if more people have successful campaigns and there's less of them complaining that it's a waste of time, then word of mouth might get more and more people onto the system.
Yeah. All right. So we've covered number 6, and our last item for today is something that's they're trying to pass it off as something minor, but it's a major Google Plus change, where now people can, instead of using their real name, now can use any name. And I maintain that the reason that Google Plus has become as successful as it has been, and drew in people like me who's never been on a social media platform before. It's because of the real names policy. I mean, I've been an ISP since 1997. I know what goes on the internet, but nothing has ever interested me as much as Google Plus. And it's the real names policy. It's because people act differently. I mean, I'm sure Google has done great sets of metrics, but when people are a persona, they'll act according to that persona's this fake thing that they're portraying. Anyway, my feeling is it's a sad day that Google finally admitted defeat and dropped the real names policy. Facebook has a real names policy. I don't know why they did it. I see Jonathan Zilger said that Vic Gondotra signed off on the dropping of real names before he left. I wonder if it's because of that, because he had to cop so much flack during NIM Wars to stick to his guns and continue with real names. I wonder if with the politics inside Google moving towards dropping it, I wonder if that's why he left.
Is the main thing about this is that you can, like, I'm just looking at the creating an account form. You still have to have a first name, you still have to have a last name, you still have to have a Gmail account, you have to have a birth date, you have to have a gender, you even have to have a mobile phone number. So you've still got to give away a lot of personal information. The only thing is those first name and last names can be anything. Is that the only change they've made?
Well, that is the only change. But my friend Gordon Murphy is now a Kawasaki G rider.
So you still can't have a single name. You can't be Madonna.
Yeah, mononyms are a bit of an issue because in certain countries, certain cultures, people have only one name. So in which case you have to put a full stop, a dot in the last name fields. So that has been, as it were, a known issue for some time, and I think the abandonment, if you like, of the real name policy has been inevitable, in that it was difficult to enforce. I mean, Google could have enforced it, but then that would have caused a lot of false positives, and then people have been asked to prove their identity to Google by sending in proofs of identity, and I think that's too heavy-handed. Why would you want to send offshore documents to Google, to a private company, just because you want to use Google Plus? So there's that. So that there's the issue of false positive, if they really wanted to enforce it, and also people getting away with it as well, because if it passed the duck test, if it looked like one, sounded like one, walked like one, then there's no reason to assume that it was a fake name. So I think it is essentially an acceptance of the reality of how people use Google Plus and perhaps the internet in a broader sense. But
maybe
it's interesting. Sorry. Yeah.
Maybe one positive for it is because the community is now established with people using real names, that people coming into the community will see that social proof and they'll follow suit and carry on using real names.
Yes, so the social atmosphere, the peer pressure.
Yeah.
Social
so the peer pressure, they'll see what other people are doing, and so it's not an environment where you use nicknames. So people, the flow will still happen of people using their real name. And yeah. Would that be better for the environment in a whole?
Yeah, I think so. I think in terms of establishing authenticity and credibility, using your real name or a name that you'd use in the real world, I think, and it is that you use on other sites, perhaps something like LinkedIn, where it is more geared towards professional things. That I think will add to that credibility, add to that authenticity that you have on Google Plus. So I think, in that sense, I think it's a compromise in the sense that there have been people who wanted to remain anonymous or pseudonymous, especially people who have been using YouTube for a long time, for example. And there are people who may not wish to reveal their identities. It may be dangerous for certain people to do so if they're posting politically charged things in a place where you might get done for posting certain things or expressing certain opinions. So in that sense, I think it makes sense to leave that room open for people to use anonymity or pseudonymity. So yeah, I think, in general, I think it has been an inevitable decision, I think, and it's a pragmatic decision.
Yeah. I wonder if coinciding with the dropping of the authorship photo rich snippet, because that was another thing that was influencing people to use real photos, because that's the only way you could get that little benefit. And then again, so if more and more people are using the real photos on their profiles, people will assume that's what you should do. Social proof again. But I wonder if that's part of the same move. They've now decided there's enough people in the community now following a certain pattern that they don't have to push it anymore.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what it allows is for different types of uses to coexist. So, there will be a lot of places where people won't be using their real names. It might be certain genres or things, certain topics where traditionally, so to speak, people haven't been using real names and haven't interacted using real names. Whereas I think if you start to think Google Plus as your main, or as one of the main social media platforms you use, and it has relevance to what you do in your real life, then it makes sense to use the name that you use in the real world. So, yeah, I think, as I've said, I think it's pragmatic decision. You may think, or perhaps a compromise, but it'd be interesting to see how it evolves and develops over the next few months and a few years, to see if what kind of social acceptance will be established. So in 2-3 years' time, if Google Plus still exists, despite
the rumors,
Jim's predictions, it'd be interesting to see whether the majority of people are using what we would think as real names, or people are using pseudonyms. So it's going to be interesting.
Did we lose Masataki's voice?
No, I just stopped talking.
He just finished.
Oh. Okay. Well, we spoke about this in the green room, but as far as for our other communities, it's not an issue, not a problem, and if Google wants to do that, to be honest, I think it will lower the tone, but particularly with a community that we have, the Australian politics community, we have a problem with the Liberal Party using paid shills to disrupt and skew the conversations, and with this real name policy, this is going to make the job of moderating the community more difficult, because there are people, genuine people, that have similar crazy views to the Liberal Party, and we don't want to exclude those people, just the paid shills.
So I think in that terms, you have to look at the profile itself. So if a profile only posts certain things, if you look at the past posts of that profile, then you can come to the decision saying, oh yeah, this is this profile is set up for this particular purpose, to disrupt discussions. Whereas if the past posting the past posts demonstrate that this person has posted about various different things, some about politics, some about other things, then you'd have reasonable confidence that this person actually exists, or there is a person behind that profile.
Yeah.
So it's not the name as such, because you can set up account in any name and then use it for spamming purposes or basically trolling communities. So the question is, you probably have to look deeper into what that profile has done, whatever name it bears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, look, I don't think it's any great drama. I mean, it doesn't affect us. It's just I mean, Google Plus was already not the end of the final result that could be seen clearly from that very first beta test. It didn't ever reach that because the emphasis went from the written word to pictures. But certainly this change in the real names policy will just make a certainty of that. I mean, Google doesn't really need the names anymore. They've got the ones they want. Got Tony McCredits for argument's sake.
Yeah, that's not my real name, though.
Yeah, and let's think for Google. What's the benefit of knowing your real name? I mean, knowing your gender and your age, these things are probably far more interesting as demographic data to advertisers than knowing what your name is.
And your behaviour, the what you +1, and they've still got all the information that they can pull together to work out who you are. And yeah, the name is irrelevant, really.
Yeah, unless they want to customize the ads saying, hello, name, in the ad. But other than that, you don't really need the name for that purpose.
Yeah. I think with how whenever you're setting up a new account, it's a bit of a laborious process because you've got to do. I think you have to do a phone verification or something, is it? Which hopefully that's the deterrent for these people to create lots of accounts with fake names, because it's just the cost reward for it is just too much. So, and the other side is, like you say, if it's a fake name, you can still look and see what they post, what their story is, even without knowing their real name. So you can still decide whether you trust them, whether they're reputable, whether if they've got more than one post, and things like that, that they're someone worth listening to. So
well,
yeah, makes
you can see whether they provide social proof.
No credibility and authenticity.
Has it been possible to be anonymous anyhow by just creating a page? Or is there certain rules that say you're not allowed to do a page and post as that as an anonymous person?
Well, I mean, a page is hamstrung, isn't it? You can't really circle as rapidly. You can't post as broadly. You can't join some commissions. Join some communities, I should say, as a page. It's not. A page just doesn't have the freedom of a profile. If I can
yeah. And something like on a similar thing, like whenever someone posts as a page or as a business, and now me personally, I don't trust them as much. Say they're in a community and you see a business come on because you don't know.
Sorry, Tony, I interrupted you there, but I just wanted to point out that you don't trust them as much because they lack social proof.
Yeah.
I'm going to be brainwashed soon, aren't I?
Yeah. All right.
Social capital, that's what it is. It's not social proof.
Capital. Have you just invented that?
No.
Yeah, Google it. Oh yeah, it's in Wiki. It must be true.
Probably means something else then.
Something to do with economics.
Oh, of course, it'd be social capital would be the wealth of a nation. It's Australia's workforce would be part of its social capital, wouldn't it?
Too many big words. Social networks have value. So it's the value of a social group of people. So it could be a country, a company, something like that.
Okay. Well, we pull the pin on this one?
Go for it.
All right. Look, thank you for watching this 13th episode of Social Media Fridays. We'll be back at the same time next week to do the same thing all over again. Thank you very much.